Welcome all to another exciting session of Sattology, debunking mythology. So we are constantly working on academic pursuits to correct the misinformation campaign in the entire world. And so today I have a very special guest and a friend, Sri Vibhuti Jha. He is a director of Nalanda International, and he is tirelessly working many years before me also on these issues. So without delay, I'll bring him on the channel now immediately. Thank you. So welcome, Vibhuti ji.
Thank you very much, Aditya. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So what do you do in Nalanda International?
Oh, Nalanda International was founded by a friend of mine. He's now about 83 years of age, but remarkably dynamic. And I have known him since 1991 when I came here. And Naveen Doshi is an entrepreneur, one of the first aerospace engineers in India from India here. And he's just as we are all getting attracted to Hindu spirituality and religion and our faith. He started in Nalanda International a long time ago, and we have discussions on consciousness. It's a pretty fabulous organization, and I'm executive director for that, as well as on the board of the group. Because Naveen and I get along very well. We have, and Naveen also has two endowments, one in UCLA, other in LMU, Loyola Marymount University, where on Indic studies especially. And, so students participate in all kinds of credit courses. And it's a pretty fabulous thing that he has done. We also have a Bridge Builder Award. So Bridge Builder Award, if you visit the website, you will see the recipients are very good people, learned people, physicists and everything else. Naveen himself is a scholar, a Hindu scholar, and does a lot of work on consciousness. He was recently recognized with a PhD by John Hagelin's Maharishi Mahesh University in Fairfield. We are doing a lot of work, as the saying goes. Thank you very much for saying that we have been doing some good work. But the one thing which always, has struck me, and that's an incessant battle. And the battle is faced by everyone. Some of us give up, somebody continues the fight. Majority of us, we say we have a classic Jane bhi do yaro attitude. We are here, let's kind of enjoy it. But in reality, if you look at it, just as the elephant and the snake charmer was the image of India at once upon a time, currently the definition and identity of India is known as a rape capital of the world, women's abuse. We are known as, what is called caste systems and idol worship. Now, these are all three things that actually encapsulates us in the sense the way the Western media describes us. So we are fighting this all. I mean, we are fighting this, we are correcting that impression. Whereas in reality, Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma is actually seeking truth. How can it not be well understood? So what are we doing? So I am constantly looking within. What am I not doing? And how do I inspire people like yourselves who are doing great job on this one? How do we collaborate, create an institutional framework that we can reach to more and more people, in not to tell media or others who criticize us, but to correct our own impression, create our own narrative. So I'm very delighted with you that in Sattology, you are doing that, just as we are doing through our sources. So it's very important to, be aware of what we have to do.
You mentioned few things about the rape capital and all these allegations. Now, these are all allegations have been proved by law. And if you look at the per 100,000 population of incidents or such incidents, then India is around 2.8, and the US is around 42, and Australia is 28. So most of these allegations are just allegations, and I call them atrocity literatures. And these atrocity literatures are meant for a campaign against American Hindus, just like caste accusation, it's an accusation, it doesn't exist. So we totally debunk these theories, including the all the leftist professors and academicians who pursue this path of thought process. So now coming back to Nalanda International, when we talk about Nalanda International, and you mentioned some endowment and you mentioned this gentleman's name. Now, what do these endowments do exactly?
Oh, these endowments in both the universities, UCLA and LMU, they run regular classes and courses, which are credit courses, and students enroll in it. So from yoga, meditation, and every single aspect of Indic studies is part of that entire process. So I've been to LMU, I've been to other places. So for example, in LMU you will find students coming from all over the world.
Mhm.
And there were ladies from Saudi Arabia and other parts of the world, and then when they imbibe the universal application of our teaching, that mind, body, and spirit is the one which constitutes us as a person, and how we get enriched through yoga, meditation, and pranayam is just one aspect of that I'm trying to tell you. So reform that happens. So when people like this learn this, and then they realize that, yeah, that's good. I can do it even as a Muslim or an Arab woman. That's the important part when you create a better acceptance. For Indian students, the challenge it is my challenge too, because more often than not, we try to be like them. We adjust faster than anybody else. So as a result of which, we are more happy being like an American or an English, forgetting in the process the way we are. Think about it like this: how divine and how important and how powerful is the concept of doing namaskar. But instead of doing this, we immediately adopt it to the Western style. It has a lot to do with the way our grounding has been over a period in time. And being a person who believes in responsibility factor is, I always say this, and I say this with chagrin as well as anger and frustration. And this is an open admittance that when we tell others, oh, we are like this because we got ruled by British and the Mughals who ruled us, my question then comes, why did we let them do it? Where was our knowledge? Why did we not apply that knowledge? So this is where the important thing I learned from Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana. The beauty of these texts is, these beautiful granths are, if I may say so, is that they teach you, they don't decry any particular behavior or character. They are the instrument of teaching you that if you are like Shakuni, or if you take the decision like Dronacharya, if you take the decision like Bhishma Pitama, there is a consequence. If you side with the evil, if you do evil things, there is a consequence to your action, isn't it? And that's the important part. You have characters which you see in daily life, you can relate with that. That when Ramji was sent to Banwas, for Bharat to become king, Bharat's mother did all the drama. But what did Bharat do? He said, I will not rule until my brother is back, but I will rule in his name. And he put the Kharao on the throne. You see the important part here, that how a relationship is shown here in a very divine way and a higher. That's the reason why Ramayana and Mahabharata teach us daily lessons. If people begin to learn, not read, but if begin to learn Mahabharata, Gita, and Sanatan Dharma and Sanatan principles, you will realize that it will give you confidence. The tragedy is that we have never been taught this in a formal manner. We have no studies in India in which you are taught Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita. You are left it on your own. And then, given the compulsions of society and job and economics, people study what will fetch them a job. And then English study becomes, and then rest of it, you are a smart guy, you know what the whole story is all about. So when we're trying to transform and change something, it has to begin from within. And that's where your yoga, your meditation, your pranayam brings the equanimity of mind. That's what brings about, and what my favorite phrase is, the elevated equilibrium. Because only when you have achieved a sense of elevated equilibrium, then you are able to do that with confidence. If the confidence is not within, then it's just a talk. It doesn't make an impact.
No, nicely put.
Thank you.
So I always say that self-confidence comes from self. And also there is a problem in the Hindu community. They live in the past too much. So just because in the past Muslims and Christians have ruled India and
Right.
they try to destroy, so we are into too much introspection also.
Correct.
We are trying to recorrect the things of the past. But water under the bridge, when it flows, it's gone. It's over. So the history is like you can take important lessons from it and we can move forward. But if you try to analyze that, how did we become a slave, then you will never come out of the cycle. So it's important for us to, I've written in my books also, all my 4 books, that we do not have to live in the past, because the past is all gone. And whatever our ancestors could do, they did. And like I can give an example that Islam converted Iraq in 15 years. Iraq was part of Persian Empire. Persia was a Hindu country, Zoroastrian country. Zoroastrians are all Hindus. And King Yadashir III, he was kicked out of Persia and was killed actually by Arabic looters. And forcibly they destroyed all the Parsi temples, and all these temples were destroyed. The word Persia comes from Parsik, which is a Sanskrit word for the people who live there, or the horse traders. That was the actual name. So we cannot go back and correct all those things. What happened? What happened? Now it's time for the Hindu community to change their mindset and correct the history by taking proactive actions. Like proactive actions according to Dharma will be that occupying Afghanistan back, occupying Pakistan back, occupying Iran back. Iran is also our country. Now, sounds very radical. People will reject me and people will say, what kind of things you're talking? But from the Dharma point of view, this is the right thing to say, because these were the very land of Brahman, or the teachers who were spiritually minded, and they were forced to give up. Now they've become adharmic. So to fight against adharma is dharma. So that kind of strategic shift has to happen, because that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches. That's what Mahabharata teaches and Ramayana teaches. So that strategic shift has to happen.
Right.
We can't defend all the time. So defending is playing into the hands of the academics who are out there to humiliate us.
Right.
So most of the times Muslims come and say, we ruled you for 1,000 years. Actually, there is no proof. They ruled us for 1,000 years because they were going in and out. Sometimes they were thrown in, sometimes they were thrown out. Continuously, if they ever ruled, if I calculate the entire 1,200 years of barbaric Islamic history, if I calculate the number of years, then they ruled us total, including all their kings and everyone, was only 137 years. Nothing more than that. So 1,000-year rule, they already made a mess out of Pakistan. Pakistan was a Hindu land. They already made a mess. Afghanistan is a pile of rocks. Iran, nobody wants to go. So what have they done with the looted land? Nothing. What have they done with Bangladesh? Nothing. So when it was a Hindu land, there was a culture, Sanatan Dharma. Now there's no culture. The only thing Persians, I won't say Persian, Iranians now, because it's an Islamic state.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The only thing Iranians are proud of is a Hindu-Persian history. Not that anything after Islam has nothing worked. It went down.
Right.
So I don't think so. We have to be defensive any longer now, because we have to stay the fact. We don't have to be overly offensive also, but just stay the facts.
The staying the facts is basically, when it happens, is one of the key lessons of Bhagavad Gita we forgot. And you are absolutely right. Past is only a teacher. As the saying goes, that if you don't learn from history, you will allow history to repeat itself. And you are totally right. There is no need to brood, cry, ponder over the past. But what is important here is to go back to Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana and Mahabharata stories, that everything that has happened has a consequence. So where do we go from here? That's the question that people like us and the people in Hindu Americans here must ponder over. So then let me tell you something. Because of this distortion of history, social life and political life, we have a very distorted mindset, and we have to combat that as well. So we have become very fatalistic. Yahi hamara fate tha. The question here is that no, you didn't arm yourself. We had all the knowledge. Veda is Vedant. Knowledge ended with Vedas. That we know. The question here is, did we apply those knowledge to our daily life, in our daily life, and dealing with that? It doesn't say don't fight. It doesn't say dharma has to be defended with aggression. If somebody hits you, then you have to hit back. It's not that everybody has to put their cheek in front, but there are certain characteristics that we have come up with. And one of the things is to combat that, this distorted mindset. We have to get out of what I choose to call the 5 V's. I may not have mentioned this to you before. We Hindus spend way too much time in vichar, vimarsh, vishleshan, vikyan, and vimochan. Doing this, we get tired. To translate that thinking, analyzing, debating, forming committees, we spend so much time, we forgot the mool lesson of Bhagavad Gita that Krishna says. He loves those who act. He believes in action. Everything else is secondary, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. But if you do not act, then it doesn't matter. Sitting here, I can hit a 6 in my mind or in my imagination. I can counsel somebody how to hit a 6 in cricket. Or you can say how to score 5 under par. You are a golfer, so you will score in 3. It's easy to talk. Doing is difficult. And that's what we talk about. That's what we have to remember. That whatever you want to become, you have to become internally that adopt it as a practice. So remember one thing, it's a very simple thing. It's a weight loss thing. It's a driving lessons thing. It is so easy to put on weight, isn't it? Try losing a pound and then the whole system has to change.
That's
right? Likewise, if we all go back to the very first day when we got the car key to drive a car, remember all the instructions that were given: clutch, brake, look to the right, look to the left, put your hand out, look in the rear view mirror. Today, all those actions are internalized in us. So whatever we want to become, we need to internalize that. And the lesson to the students, to young Indians here, the young Hindus here, and including old Hindus, is to go back and study the texts. But that's where all the answers lie. For people like you and I think we are on the right path in terms of building an institutional framework. And that is important to do. Because, a lot of times Hindus seek guidance. There's a very interesting thing. As seeker of truth, if you are not guided, you also lose your path. And if you lose your path, it's very difficult to retrace. So much time lost. Time is lost. So those people who are gurus and teachers, that's where we had the entire system of Gurukul, where the guru was the one who was giving them guidance to head out in a particular direction and learn everything, right? So we have to bring in that relationship part of it as well. Our text, I don't care about what the others are doing. I'm a sportsman, you have played golf. It doesn't matter what others are doing. Am I doing well is the important question, right? If your score is 10 under par, then it doesn't matter who did what. And if I score 2 goals in the soccer game, then the opponent has to score 3 to win. These are very simple philosophies that we have to prepare. And I tell you, you have started a great campaign, how to change the mind. mind doesn't change with one talk, but there is a thing called inspiration. So if there are, even if two people out of these listeners today imbibe that sense that it's up to me to learn, ask the question, seek the truth, you and I are there to provide the answer. So we create that institutional framework, people will come. And I think, as I see in 1991, when I came here to now, the awareness, the excitement amongst Indians has reached very, very good heights. And I'm
So
very proud about that.
since 1965, Srila Prabhupada, founder of ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, they have done a phenomenal job in the US. They opened
Right,
42 temples, transformed many, many lives, which we cannot even count. And
right.
and it has been continuing. And also the Hindu history, the parts which are not told to the people. There are 28 kings, Hindu kings, since 652 annexation of Arabic Muslim Islam over Persia, which was a Hindu land or Zoroastrian land, whatever you call it. They since then people have fought. It took 250 years, actually not 250, 600, from 651 AD to 1200. This was a period during which Kabul in Afghanistan remained a Hindu land, Hindu city, filled with rich Hindu traders. And so this long was a struggle, almost 600 years they took to invade Kabul. Forget about India, forget about Pakistan. If it was not for 1947, due to some blunders by the Indian political leadership, Pakistan would not exist today. Because to even think about that Hindus have lost it, or it's totally incorrect, to all the brave fighters. And since 653, I'll say, till when Islam came to Sindh, and then 711 to Kashmir, 711 AD. Since then, our Hindu kings have protected this entire land. And the biggest contribution has been our spiritual parampara, our Shankaracharyas, our Ramanujacharyas, and Sri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya. Many Sampradayas defended India. It was not the political leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and other people that destroyed India, but our spiritual leaders, who somehow the leftist media has campaigned, so they have begun to hate our sadhu. But India is because of these sadhus only today. And I personally have a deep respect for anyone with a saffron dress, because unfortunately not those Christians who are pretending as Hindus, but rest of the people who actually follow Vedic culture, because they are the real backbone of India. And we they have defended our culture, and they have given us so much knowledge. I at Sattology we represent them. I'm a disciple. I'm a grand disciple of Prabhupada. I cannot forget that fact, and whatever I've learned or said or realizations I have come from him. So now with that, Sattology was a project just started to remove the mythology tag, which Prabhupada said it so many times. Prabhupada said it in the writings when he spoke to the chancellors in Harvard and all, to the deans. He told them the mythology tag is incorrect on Vedic histories, because everything has been proved. Now, for some of the Hindus who feel still apologetic and try to depend on the fate and other things, now Vibhuti ji, you said it so well. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjun wanted to do the same thing. And what did Krishna tell him? To fight without lethargy. Now, the same, so because most of the people do not read, it's, when I go to people's homes and I see in the drawing rooms getting dusted. And so if you have to take it out, it's just like the jar of honey. You take it out and put a spoon in it and eat. But if you try to lick it from the outside, you're just going to not get the taste of honey. So I'll stop here. But Vibhutiji, do you have any last words to share?
Of course, like I would sincerely, hope that we will have a continuing dialogue, because change doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
Change takes time to happen.
Yes.
It takes 30 years for a person to grow to 30 years of age. right? So it doesn't happen in an accelerated way, although mental age, and you can argue it out, all those things. But the important part here is to imbibe the lessons. Staying engaged. That's my favorite word. Is that you have to stay engaged with those who hate you, or those who don't understand you. Because if you do not engage, you let them go as they are, then the distance keeps going further away. So as a result of which, if you stay engaged, then you have a chance to interact and influence and set right the entire process. What is important here is that to recognize, you alluded to that fact in history. History has happened and it's gone. We have to combat our mental distorted truths that are settled in. And you brought in the names of Nehru and others in contemporary post-independence India, and we will have a lot to talk, because that's one thing that has Nehru. I define Nehru as a classic example of the man, path to hell is paved with good intentions. So think about it, that man, how he brought about the destruction of India, as in other than the fact he set out on the right agenda, but did it so very badly. That's the subject matter for another conversation. But what I would like to say is that people, Indian origin, do not get stuck with an emotional high that aaj mujhe kuch karna hai. Because learning to do something requires practice, and practice requires learning, and it requires guidance. So, take this emotional high attitude away. He suddenly woke up in the morning, had a cup of coffee, okay, I'm going to reform Hinduism, or I'm going to change 10 people's mind. It's not going to happen. Therefore, it is important to get engaged with the environment around you. Spend some time on it, because there are 24 hours, 7 days in a year. They're common for everybody. So you have to prioritize your energy. I will give half an hour or 1 hour to do this. And prior to that, learn. And the learning is, to use the sportsman's language, go back to the basics. To use the basketball parlance, to dunk or lay up, both get you 2 points. So the question here is that how do you decide which shot is the best in that moment you take? And that's where I bring the lessons from sports to do that. It is a tremendous opportunity. And I'm very proud Hindu. When I came here, I became a better Hindu. The reason is very simple. We are absolutely gender neutral. We have no race neutrality. We have totally race neutral, gender neutral. We don't discriminate whether you pray or you don't pray. And when you seek the truth, you realize that you are totally accepting of others. And we have to begin to use certain words as a process of change. So when people talk about, oh, we should be tolerant, I say, no, we should be accepting of the other person as they are. Tolerating somebody has a negative connotation. That, I have to tolerate you because I have no choice. But when you accept somebody as is, that's what Sanatana Dharma teaches you. Whether you do puja or not, but your actions define who you are. You don't go to heaven by killing people.
Yeah, thank you so
These
much.
words, that's all I have to say today. And thank you very much. Great conversation. Enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And keep listening and tuning to our subscribe to Sattology channel. View the videos, a lot of interesting videos, a lot of good speakers out there. And keep on viewing that and forwarding it.
I
Thank
do.
you so much.
I do. We will be happy to know that.